Hi, I'm Scott Fulmar from LensRentals.com, and today I'm going to show you how to clean a camera sensor. Before you can start cleaning, you have to raise the camera's mirror in order to access the sensor. Look through your camera's menus and find the manual sensor cleaning or lock up mirror function and select it. The mirror should flip up and lock into place. Now you're ready to clean. The first thing you should do is hold the camera up face down and using an air ball blow out the chamber. What this does is loosen up and knock out dust that might otherwise fall onto the sensor during or after the cleaning process. After blowing out the chamber, it's time to examine the sensor using a loupe. One thing to keep in mind while looking for a sensor loupe is that you need maximal magnification with minimal distortion. Loupes that are lacking in either of these two qualities won't reveal the smaller dust particles. Once you've identified how much dust is on the sensor, it's time to use a sensor brush. Now, there are a couple of different brushes available on the market, and in fact, one of the tools we're going to use later has a brush on the back of it, but the brush I prefer to use is the Arctic Butterfly. What sets this brush apart is its rotating head, which generates a static charge that draws hair and dust onto the bristles, whereas other brushes tend to merely push the dust around and in some cases deposit even more dust onto the sensor. Insert the brush, being careful not to touch the sides of the chamber with the bristles, and pressing very gently, swipe the brush from one side of the sensor to the other. When brushing, take care not to go outside the designated border of the sensor because there are lubricants and oils just beyond that border that can be transferred to the brush and from there to the sensor. The next step is to stamp the sensor using a silicone dust stamp. This tool is good for removing dust left behind by the brush, especially in corners and along edges, areas you had to tiptoe around when using the brush. When using the stamp, simply press straight down, gently but firmly, and lift straight up. Don't drag the stamp or you'll leave skid marks on the sensor. Now, let's say you've gone through the first two steps, and maybe you smeared some oil on the sensor, or perhaps there is a really stubborn piece of dust that the brush or stamp just won't pick up. It's time to use the sensor pen. This is a great tool for buffing out marks, smudges, and smears and dislodging those particularly pesky pieces of dust or hair from the sensor. In other words, it's the perfect dry substitute for a pain-in-the-ass wet cleaning. However, as useful as this tool can be, there is something to keep in mind anytime you use it. The sensor pen will leave behind tiny black powder particles that in most cases can't be seen with the sensor loupe, but will definitely show up in your images. So it's advisable at the very least to go back over the sensor with the stamp anytime you use the sensor pen to ensure these particles don't appear in your images. Okay, so those are the three tools I use to clean a camera sensor, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a three-step process. Chances are you're going to have to go back and forth between the steps until you can't see any more debris on the sensor through the sensor loupe. Now, you've looked at the sensor through the loupe and it looks immaculate, but you still want to make sure there's absolutely, positively nothing left on the sensor. The very best way to do so is to take a picture. Just point your camera at a bright featureless area such as a wall or the sky on a clear day, using the smallest aperture setting and ideally a lens with a focal length between 25 and 35 millimeters, and snap your image. You can then zoom in across the entire area of that image and examine.
Hello, I'm Tom Robeson, Product Manager for SensorScope for Delkin Devices. SensorScope is the safest and most effective system for cleaning your digital SLR image sensor. Inside the SensorScope system, we have the SensorScope, SensorVac, 24 sensor-safe wands, and a half-ounce bottle of sensor solution. The SensorScope has a 5x magnification lens and 4 ultra bright LEDs. To use it, you set your camera into camera cleaning mode. This locks your mirror up, allowing access to the sensor and allowing you to clean it. You place the SensorScope right on top of the bezel. SensorScope works with Canon, Nikon, any digital SLR cameras out there. You press the green button here that lights up the LEDs and allows you to look right at your sensor, magnifying it 5 times so you can examine it and find dust and other contaminants. Once you have determined where the dust is and what it is, you're able to use the rest of the sensor scope system to clean any and all types of contaminants. To start cleaning, use the sensor vac. Sensor vac is a USB powered mini vacuum, and it comes with a supplied battery pack. Plugs in there, turn it on here, and you have a power up function, a light, and this tip is completely safe to touch your image sensor with. First thing you do is clean in and around the camera bezel here, any parts of the chamber as well, and you work your way on down right onto the sensor, cleaning the spots where you located the dust. Check again with your sensor scope. And if you've removed the dust with the vacuum, you're finished. However, if you found that there's still more dust there, or it's a wet type of debris, you'll need to use the sensor safe wands. To use the sensor safe wands, you cut one end of the bag and remove the wand, being careful not to touch any of the ends to prevent contamination. You apply just 2 drops of sensor solution to one side of the sensor safe wand. You insert the wand into one side of the sensor, press down firmly, and slide the wand across the sensor. Roll it over, slide the wand across, turn the wand over using the dry side, go in on one side, press down firmly, apply the same method, swipe across, roll it over, swipe back. Discard the wand, they're one-time use. Use the sensor scope to examine the sensor, make sure you have removed all the contaminants. Once you're finished, turn the camera off. As you can see, the sensor scope system makes cleaning your digital SLR image sensor very safe, effective, and easy. Thank you for watching, and good luck.
So we don't have to do that. The sensor surface itself is exposed. So now with the tip of the stick, the gel stick, the blue gel, we are going to push it onto the sensor. You should push it with a certain degree of force, but without pushing too hard if you don't want to damage the sensor. And it will easily stick. And it takes quite a bit of force to unstick it. So you do this over the whole surface of the sensor, making sure you cover it all. Here and here. And this should take care of most of the dust that's left on your sensor. So we mount the lens again